to the Metal Command Podcast.
Greetings and welcome back to another edition of the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. Today I am bringing you an awesome interview with Filippa Nässil and Linnea Vikström from the band Thundermother. Thundermother, of course, is a hard rock band from Sweden. There is a new album coming out February 7th, 2025 called Dirty and Divine, and the band is incredible. This new album coming up is incredible. The two albums before it are absolutely incredible. A really, really great band that writes really great, catchy songs. And I originally met this band in Cleveland a couple years ago. They actually opened up for the Scorpions here in the USA. However, most of that lineup is now not in the band. So Linnea is the new singer. Filippa, obviously, I did meet in Cleveland at that time, but really just an outstanding record. And these two ladies are a lot of fun to talk to, and it's a really cool interview. And if you've never checked out music by this band, I will have, Thundermother, I will have some links in the show notes. And of course, I will tag them on social media when this interview goes up. And that way you can check the band out. So with that said, here is the interview with Filippa and Linnea from the band Thundermother. Hey everybody, welcome to the Metal Command Podcast. Tony here with you. I am joined by Filippa and Linnea from the band Thundermother, who have a new album coming out here February 7th. All right, there you go. And the album's very good. Ladies, I got to be honest with you. The last album I thought was excellent. This album is obviously very, very good as well. And just a lot of really cool stuff in store for you. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I'm really excited to have you here. So talk about the new album. I think personally, in my opinion, I think it has a really cool 70s vibe to it. With the type of songwriting that you have. Obviously, we have an all-new lineup with bringing back one of your former members, your former bass player coming back into the band. So let's talk about this. Talk about making this record and your upcoming album.
Well, stoked that you said 70s because I love the 70s.
Yeah.
I guess my guitar amp is from the 70s, so that could be the reason. But it sounds like the 70s. But I mean, it's a really broad album. Me and Linnea put a lot of effort into the songwriting together.
Yeah, we really took our time with it to make it so that we like it.
Yeah, we said from the get-go, let's not stress another album and just do it when we feel like it, song by song. And Linnea coming from a little bit more 80s hard rock influences, and me from the more 70s influences, just made a good something fresh, I think, with this album.
Yeah,
that we both love.
One of the things about it that struck me when I actually listened to the whole thing, it felt like, when I say it felt like a 70s style hard rock album. Not only from the songwriting did it feel like that, but it almost felt like, back in those days, you went in, you practiced the songs, you went in and recorded them quite quickly. I mean, that's usually how they did that. And did that happen for you? Like, did you go in there, record it, boom, we're done, like they would have done back then? Or was it something along the lines of, hey, you're in the studio for 3 months doing this? Or did you just do it in a week? Some people do that. I'm just curious if that's what you ended up doing for this record.
No, we did it like that. We did it analog. We rehearsed. We went in. It took 4 days to record the songs, and then I went back and did the solos in 1 day, and Linnea did the vocals here back home in Stockholm.
Yeah, it felt like, and I say that because it felt like it has kind of a live feel to it, a little bit.
It is live.
That's what we're aiming for.
We did 3 songs a day, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things I thought was always interesting, you have a new lineup of people. Filippa, I think that a compliment I'm going to give to you is that the band has had, quite a few lineup changes. But the one thing I always thought was interesting is that you've always managed, regardless of whoever you brought into the band, you've always managed to make some very good records. So my thing is, when you're looking for new members to bring into the band, you're looking for someone to come in, what are some of the things you look for that you see in people that, you know, you think, okay, this person's going to be a great fit? I say that because there are musicians in bands that shift a lot of people sometimes, and that, you know, the records can suffer from it, but I don't think your albums have. And I think Linnea has done a great job coming in and singing on this album. So what is it that you look for in a lot of the people you do bring into the band?
I mean, without, you know, sounding horrible, I mean, it's like an apartment. When you change an apartment, you don't go down, you go up.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, but I always admired Linnea. I wanted her to join the band already 2017.
Okay.
I always know she's a professional singer and performer. Seeing her in the rock pubs around Stockholm, and
Yeah.
also she's been singing on my demos that I made when I did demos for other bands like Girls' School and stuff like that. Linnea came in and rocked them, and so I've seen her range and her you know, what she can do with anything. She can really do anything with her voice. Is incredible. And the drummer Johan is just someone we found on Instagram, actually. Seeing her drum clips on her Instagram, and her music taste was so similar to what I like that I reacted quickly, because most of what you see, like girls on Instagram, is like metal, or you know what I mean. But she was just old school, really different instantly, and so we took her up here and tried her out, Linnea, me, and my son, and asked if she wanted to join as a drummer.
Yeah. So, Dirty and Divine. Any concept behind the title? Any, you know, is there a reasoning behind that? You know, is there something about the record that you decided to name it?
Could I ask you, as an English-speaking person, what that implies to you? Because for us, it's not our first language, so we have an idea of the thought behind it. But I think it would be really interesting to hear from someone who has English as their native language. Like, what connotations does that bring up for you?
So you're doing the interview.
Yeah, I know, but I'm interested.
You know what?
As a starting point for us.
Yeah. So I will tell you that it kind of brings, it's something that, you know, when I said 70s vibe, that is something a band from back then would name a record.
Right.
You know, that's kind of what it reminded me of. You know, I didn't have any crazy weird thoughts about that. When I saw the album, I thought, you know what? You know, it just gave a 70s vibe to me.
Nice.
You know, that's pretty much it kind of is in line with the music, right? And you know, like I'll give you an example. A lot of 70s productions, you know, like you just brought up the 80s, you know, Filippa just brought up about Linnea. Hey, you know, you into more 80s stuff. If you ever notice in the 80s, a lot of bands, a lot of reverb, a lot of delay, you know, in some of the productions, right? In the 70s, it was a little bit different. You ended up getting whatever came out of the amp, and people will describe some of the productions of those albums as kind of dirty sounding, right?
Right.
And so that is sort of what it reminded me of, right? Like when I think of, you know, like for example, when I think of 70s Whitesnake, okay?
Right. Nice.
You know, and so when I see that title, that is what I think. Now, maybe I answered my own question. I don't know.
No, but the reason I asked this is because it's always nice to hear what it actually makes someone, you know, what emotions that does it evoke in people.
Yeah.
And I guess for us, dirty and divine are so two vastly different things.
Yeah.
Something divine can't really be dirty, or can it? You know.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I mean, I get the opposite type scenario with it as well.
Yeah.
But it just struck me as an album from the 70s would have a name like that. It just it's you know, because when I think of this record, this is what I think. I don't know why I think 70s Whitesnake, but that's what I think. I mean, that's kind of what vibes it brings to me. And maybe
they have great covers too, and you know, artwork.
They did,
definitely.
Yeah. So it really
and they really are dirty in how they are playing and how they're singing. They
Yeah.
definitely. So yeah.
Yeah, and when you say dirty, you think, you're thinking these guys they're not. They're playing more with a feel than they are trying to be precise about stuff.
Exactly.
And that's kind of how a lot of guitar players from the 70s were. It's just it's if you go back and listen to, I'll listen to other bands that kind of have a similar type of songwriting, and that's the first thing I think of. You're not thinking of clean and precise. You're thinking of, hey, let's go in, let's record, the vibe is right, let's record the record, we'll do the record in like a week. That's what a lot of bands did, and that's what the album sounds like. I mean, that's where I'm at. And, so you're going and touring, obviously, in February. And, Filippa, I'll ask you this. You guys toured the U.S. I actually met you guys here in Cleveland, but you toured the U.S. You played with the Scorpions. You got the band's name out there. Did that open any doors for you? And because it's very tough to get into this market here.
Yeah.
Did that open any doors for you? Did it really help you grow a fan base here? Maybe talk a bit about that, because America's a weird market, and bands from Europe that do really well will come here. Let's say a band plays to 20,000 people, they might play to 500. So I'm curious how that works.
We played for 20,000 many times in the US.
Yeah.
With the Scorpions. But like we have one song on the album, American Adrenaline. Is sort of a thank you to all the fans that we met, and because it feels like I needed something more because it ended so quickly afterwards. Like you said, did we get anything from it? I'm not sure. We got fans obviously supporting us, writing, and we got to tour with the Scorpions in Europe because Klaus and the guys were very happy with us, supporting them. So they asked for another continent. But other than that, it felt like what happened,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad that it's gone so quickly. I would love to come back and see for myself, and if we got how many fans we got, if we could sell tickets for a headline show or something.
Yeah, it's always difficult because of the size of the country, right?
Definitely.
Like logistically, like when you go to like if you're in Europe, it's easy. The cities are closer together. The travel time isn't as crazy. In the States, what ends up happening, you get stuck on the East Coast. You'll play a bunch of shows there. You'll play maybe a couple in the Midwest. And then you have this long journey to the West Coast to play in like 3 cities. And then you got to figure out, okay, am I going to play in 1 or 2 cities on the way there? But I think the fact that the Scorpions, it's interesting because a lot of bands, when they feel comfortable with an opener, that's a compliment because a lot of these guys, they don't. And so they usually have to like you. So I think it's a really cool compliment that they would want you to come to the U.S. and play with them. And I think in a sense that, they're going to speak highly of you. And I think that might have maybe opened some doors for you because I'll be honest, I knew of the band before you came here, but the U.S. is a different animal because most people don't look for new bands. It's just how it is. So, but I'd be interested, to see what kind of response you get from the States with this record coming out, because I think, I think the production even sounds better.
We haven't actually done much with it since we didn't have any new album, but now we'll see. That's the truth. You're correct. I mean,
so you went with the same producer. I think that was a good idea. Why did you decide to go that route and stay with the same person?
Because he's so, good friend, and we're comfortable with him, and we feel safe with him, I would say.
Yeah.
And, he understands the vision of Thundermother, and it's his heart project as well. He sees himself as a 5th member, so it would be like firing a member to get another producer.
Yeah.
It would be like cheating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course it would be interesting to get another one's perspective sometime. Then on the other hand, that would be completely wrong as well, because Søren made us big as a band with his productions. That's the truth. So it's a lot thanks to him.
I think that's something a lot of bands, they try to make records themselves, and I think they lose the other perspective in the room. Because a lot of productions, and I can tell you, if I were to show you my phone and all the amount of emails that I receive, and I'll tell you where I'm going with this. Like right now, I have 1,600 emails that I have that are unread, and 1,000 of those are publicists, labels, and bands sending me a promo. And I would say 90% of those emails, if I open them up and I listen to the albums, you can literally tell that everybody is using the same plugins and the same templates, and they don't have a producer. They don't want to bring that other person in. Your album is not like that. It does not sound like that. And I think a big reason is because you have an actual fifth person coming in, recording the album, and it doesn't sound like that.
We had a lot done before him, actually, this album too. Just saying that. I'm kidding. He was like, I want to change that. We're like, no.
But he's cool with that, because if he comes with an idea and we're not up for it, it's not like he's gonna be like pissed or say, I'm the producer, I'm the one in charge of this album. He's gonna go, okay, you're the band,
Yeah.
But mostly his ideas are brilliant.
And then behind our backs, he changed the mix again, and that has happened with him. He has fooled us.
That's funny.
Yeah. I asked him, and he was like, yeah, okay, I did that, So, I know I'm right, he said.
You have a tour. You have quite a few tour dates. And it's been difficult for bands to tour. I mean, the cost has been ridiculous. And
yeah.
Was it difficult?
It is ridiculous for us as well.
Yeah. Was it difficult to book this tour? Because do you find that maybe promoters aren't as open to putting money up to bring a band in? Has it been more difficult, or was it pretty easy for you to be able to book it? Some bands, they haven't had a lot of problems, some have, and
it is problems for everybody now, I think.
Yeah.
And to make ends meet. Also for us, it took time to get this tour together, and it still takes time to get another tour together. So we're really fortunate in this way to be able to do this, and just having a nightliner, bringing my kid, and we all live in this bus, eats up basically the whole budget,
Yeah. People, it's crazy. I looked at an invoice from a pretty big metal band. I know. I looked at an invoice because I know some of these people that work at some of these bus companies here, and he showed me one of the invoices. And people don't realize you're paying the rent for the bus. You're paying by how far you're driving it. You're paying for the gasoline. You're paying the driver. In many cases, you're paying
sometimes double drivers.
Yeah,
and the tolls and the bridges we have in Europe.
Yeah, we got all that fun stuff here as well. Depending on what state you're in, you got the laundry bill. You have all of this stuff. You have the maintenance bill. So I remember looking at this bus, and I think for a month, this band, and it was probably, because those buses go from anywhere from, depending on how they're spec'd out, $500,000 to $2 million, depending on what you grab. And so, you have these people that there was a year and a half, 2 years where these buses were sitting, and they were paying payments on them, so they're going to charge more money for everything. And then I think I looked at it. I think for a week it was like $45,000. And it was probably a middle of the road bus. It wasn't one of the bigger ones, but it was not one of the cheaper ones. So it was probably in the middle, but it was a lot of money.
Yeah, and from my, isn't it true that in America it's much more common to use single-decker buses?
Yeah, we had a single-decker.
Yeah, I did too when I was in the US.
Yeah,
and we have double-deckers and take the double amount of people. So you need less. Yeah,
they're
in Europe, yeah.
much cooler, your buses with the silver. I love those.
Yeah, it's really nice.
But we had to take a huge loan to be opening enough for Scorpions.
Yeah.
In a bus like that.
Yeah, and it was cool because between shows you would play smaller venues in between, kind of like on off days, and I thought that was good because you were able to kind of, spread out. You might have a club that might hold a couple hundred people, but again, with new bands in the States, it's kind of like you got to kind of start from the bottom and kind of work your way up, to grow a fan base. And then unfortunately here, the country is so big, and it's weird because let's say you book 10 shows here, 6 of those cities, you might have a huge fan base, and then the other 4 may have never heard of you.
That's exactly how it was. We sold out Cleveland.
Yeah.
We had half full in Stubbs in Austin, and in Long Island we had 0 people coming. It was only the other band watching in New York.
Isn't that strange? Because Cleveland's a weird market. I've seen bands come here and like 20 people show up, but they'll go to New York and play to like 4,000. It's just.
Are you based in Cleveland or?
I'm in Cleveland. Yes.
Yeah. That's where we played.
Well, I know. I remember. I met you. So.
Oh, that's true.
I remember I walked in with a headband.
That's why I recognize you, I guess. Then.
Yeah, it was
and
funny.
I love that charity shop in the bottom as well.
Yeah, well, it was funny. I remember walking down with my Headbangers Ballroom shirt, and like I felt famous because I knew Adi.
Oh yeah, you know Adi.
Yeah,
that's why I know you.
Yeah, I knew him before he was famous. I always make fun of him about that, but. He didn't have the Headbangers Ballroom way back in the day. It's funny. I have an old photo.
Oh Lord, no! I completely know who you are.
Yeah, when he was a kid. It's funny. We were like kids when we met, and I was looking at an old photo, and we look pretty much identical, except we're like 50 pounds heavier. So it's kind of how. That's how. That's
photos actually. I remember.
I'll have to show you when we're done with the interview. I'll show you a photo of him and I.
I've seen a photo with him and you.
Yeah, you might have. Yeah, so
I have.
That's a long time ago. But I think that your fan base in Europe. What's interesting is that you have quite a few dates booked, and it seems like you have a pretty healthy fan base over there. And how many albums is this for you now? The band's been around, 15 years, 14 years, something like that? 16 years? So
it's the 6th album.
Album number 6. Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems like you have a pretty healthy fan base over there. And was it difficult to build that for you? Or, maybe talk a bit about, getting the band to where it is now.
It is the most difficult thing ever.
Yeah.
Doing that. Also, personalities in a band keep that together while touring, and touring for so many years without getting any payment for it. So all the sacrifices I did in my 20s was for Thundermother. 10 years only for that, easily. But I'm happy about it now. But I would have done it again. I don't know. I might have become a real estate agent instead. It was crazy.
No.
Crazy amount of work.
Well, no. I think, most musicians, they always have that other job that they do. A lot of musicians I know now, they have a job they can work from anywhere, So I know some guys do logo design. They work for big companies, and they don't have to be like at home to do that stuff. And while they're on the road, they do that, and then they can play music, and then that pretty much pays the bills from the money they don't make. So it's kind of how.
But right now, we're so fortunate to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And
more or less full time.
Yeah, full time. So, well, that's something I don't take for granted.
Yeah.
Well, but I think in regards to this music industry being hard and difficult to get people to shows and stuff, I think that we're gonna see a shift soon with the younger people. Yeah. And this is completely anecdotal, but there is a club in a live music club in Sweden where there's like blues jams and jazz jams and stuff. And when I was there 10 years ago, it was only people over 50 there.
Yeah.
Now, every night, it's packed with people between 18 and 22. It's like a complete, it's like this new generation that has an appreciation for live music,
Yeah.
which we haven't seen for a while. And
Yeah.
I think that's going to make an impact in a few years when those people start to make good money and can go to shows and all of that.
Yeah.
It's gonna
It's true.
something's gonna happen with that, I think.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, the what do you call it? Organic music is back without clicks and stuff and computers. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to be like this.
No, I got you. You know, it's interesting you say that, because I remember 27 years ago, I remember when I started this show, if you went to a heavy metal show, which over here, music really, it was kind of starting its little resurgence in Europe and stuff, that everybody would be in their 40s. Now, I was like 20, 21, 19, you know, getting into this stuff. But, you know, I always reference this because I remember when Hammerfall came out with their debut album, and it out of nowhere sold like 100,000 copies in Europe. And then I noticed that in the early days of the internet, the fan base of this music ended up getting younger. All these younger people out of nowhere, you know, bought that record and got into this stuff. And now all of those people are in their 40s like me. And, you know, now it's almost like a cycle, right?
Yeah.
I think almost everything's going to bottom out. And then once it bottoms out, it's just going to go up from there, because it's the only place it can go. But I think Sweden's different in a sense that, you know, I notice more bands, really good bands. Most of the newer bands that I encounter are usually from Sweden or Denmark or just Scandinavia in general. I don't know why that is, but you seem to have more bands that are actually creating really good stuff coming from that area as opposed to anywhere else. And maybe it's just a culture thing, I don't know. But I find that most of the newer metal bands that I deal with, say that came out with the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years, are all coming from your area. And I don't know, maybe you can shed some light on that, because it's just, I get this new band. Oh, this band sounds great. And I look, they're from Sweden. They're from Denmark. They're from Sweden. Maybe they might be from Finland. It's just that area.
Yeah, talking from Sweden, we have a state-subsidized music teaching or music schools. So it's really popular, and it's very cheap to take guitar lessons. You pay, what, $60 per semester or something to get guitar lessons. And a lot of people start their bands out of those music schools.
Right.
And I think in general, I think that's one answer to it. But then I also think that the melodic tradition of Swedish pop music, like ABBA, for example,
Or Europe.
In Europe, of course, I think that melodic
Rocksteady cardigans and
that's a tradition that spills over to the hard rock and metal, which gives it a special sound. And I've always thought about Finland for the same reason, because Finnish metal has they have the best melodies.
Yeah.
And I was thinking maybe that has something to do with like the Finnish tango or something, which I love, by the way. Something with melodic, specific melodic traditions from this area that might have something to do with it.
We also have the study circles.
The study circles also.
That you learn better from your friends than from a teacher thing. And then if you're three people having a group, any kind of group, like music group or whatever, you get funds from the government to develop that, and you can rent a rehearsal room for free, or even they even have like government kind of managers. I was one for over 10 years.
Okay.
So I had 35 bands I took care of and booked gigs for in the name of the government.
Yeah.
So that's a Swedish thing as well that helps, I think.
Yeah,
but it's worse nowadays because we also have a shift in politics, like everywhere else right now. So it's getting worse. They take away the funds right now, which is scary.
Yeah. It's interesting you talked about booking bands. I think that, you're not only getting an education with music, but you're learning the business side of things as well. And I think that helps because I'll be honest with you, the people in their knowledge of how the business side of things work or should work, there's a lot less of that. The competency when it comes to that, as I'll say, is not what it once was. And so I think what you're talking about too, you're not only learning, how to play, you're learning how to write songs, you're learning, different
how
kinds
to
of
arrange a gig, even promoters.
Exactly. And you're able, and you're learning how to do the business side of things, which I could tell you there's nothing over here like that. I mean, nobody.
Like, you could get help doing what you do right now if you were in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a free podcast room and everything.
That's interesting. And I think from just those areas, I think that's a big reason as to why there's so many really good bands and musicians coming from there.
People can also take a leap of faith much easier and try out because a lot of things are much cheaper in Sweden when you're a youth. So up to you're 25, you get discounts, you get special apartments that you can rent.
Yeah,
that's a different story because housing everywhere is fucked. But you know what I mean.
Same here.
Yeah, I've heard. I'm on TikTok.
Yeah,
but I think that you have a lot of advantages when you're in your early 20s, living here and having the opportunity to dare to try out a different lifestyle.
Absolutely. Maybe. I think so.
Yeah.
Now, we'll get back to the album here in a second. A lot of these songs, have some pretty interesting titles. So you just had that lyric video come out for Bright Eyes, but I thought one of the songs I thought was interesting is I Left My License in the Future. So I want to talk about that for a minute. I'll talk about that track because it's an interesting title. It has some interesting lyrics. Maybe go into depth of what that song is actually about.
Yeah, okay. That's also interesting because, as we said, English isn't the first language. And I was thinking of the implications of that when I wrote it. Maybe this is just, sounds good to me and it's going to sound really Swinglish and weird in English. But you know what? Let's just go for it. So what it is was me and my mother. We were driving through a thunderstorm. And mind you, I was not driving because I cannot drive. I never took my license. And we were driving and it was just pouring down rain, dark outside. And she was like, you have to keep me occupied with something. Let's write a song, she goes. So, we wrote that song in the car. Yeah. And it's basically about me being the number one procrastinator on planet Earth.
And I love the song. Linnea sent it to me and I was like, yeah, that's the single.
So basically procrastinating and getting your license.
Yeah. I mean, I chose to, I left my license in the future. I think I forgot it in a bar. I decided to go have a beer instead of maybe going to the driver's lessons or whatever. So it's very poetic like that.
And we actually have a single coming out today as well, right now. So I'm just checking social media. So wow, it's just blew up. It was out 39 minutes ago, called "Can't Put Out the Fire."
Linnea is not good. That's gonna say.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't like the new singer.
Linnea actually made the new video for it when we are in the rehearsal room. And it's out now. Linnea cut it and we filmed it by ourselves.
So I should probably get the press release for that coming up here probably sometime today because we're always behind you hours wise, actually. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
what
what
song-
time is it for you now?
it is 6:40 a.m.
A.m. in morning.
in the morning. Yeah,
Oh,
I do all
Jesus Christ, you're up really early for this. I'm impressed.
always.
Yes, very impressed.
Always. Well, any interviews from Europe on this show are typically early morning, unless it's on a
Yeah.
weekend. But I always do that. A lot of times for me, I've been up since 5 a.m. So it doesn't, this is normally when I wake up. I know that sounds crazy, but
Me too, actually. I have a baby.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean,
But why are you up at 5 a.m.?
To have this interview with us.
correct.
Oh, only
Yes.
this reason.
Yeah, my girlfriend always tells me I'm crazy because I wake up early, and she's like, I don't know how you don't want to sleep past, 10 a.m., but it is what it is. So I'm always usually pretty much up anyway, doing something. So yeah, it's interesting because what song did you guys release? Like this, we can talk about it. What's the new lyric video?
We just want to say that it's our hearts go out to everyone in LA right now with the fires and everything, and so it's a little bit. We didn't know about that obviously when we wrote the track, but it's called "Can't Put Out the Fire," but it's about something completely different, obviously.
Yeah.
But
It's a bit of a bad timing, yeah.
bad timing with the title.
the set. Yeah, it's the second song in the album, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and
You
it's the
might be
fire
right.
in our hearts, obviously. It's about that.
Yeah.
Going to a Kiss show, your first Kiss show, like Linnea going to her first Kiss show.
Yes.
So
I-
it's a little homage
yeah.
to Kiss.
I went and saw Kiss my first time in 1996 when they put the makeup back on.
Nice.
Awesome.
My first one was in either 99 or 2000, Psycho Circus.
Yeah.
It was a tiny baby sitting on my dad's shoulders for the whole show.
Now for bringing them up, we owe Gene $5 for bringing up Kiss. I'm kidding.
Oh, really? No, I was like, is that for real?
But that's why we don't.
No, we're not talking about Kiss the band. We're talking about making out.
We don't want to get sued looking like Kiss in the video, but
No,
we
that's-
a little bit like Kiss in the video.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I now they have avatars, so they will be
Yeah.
around forever. But I think if they're going to make the avatars authentic, what they probably should do is have, Paul and Gene, talk shit about Ace and Peter. If they're going to really make the avatars legit, right, to make them realistic.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding. Anyway,
That was hilarious.
No, we're like, yeah, totally.
I was like, I think myself go to like a stand-up show when they're doing that.
yeah, it's amazing how that band too has transcended. There's so many bands that even people that aren't into metal that are influenced by them. It's crazy to think that when I saw them, it was almost 30 years ago when they put the makeup back on. The show was crazy. And honestly, I knew some of their songs. I didn't really know a lot about them, but I went to the show and they played this huge arena here. And it was insane. It was sold out. And I saw them before they put the makeup back on. It still played a big venue, but man, when the makeup thing came out and they brought the original guys back, it was crazy how big that was.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
I can imagine.
So we're going to end it off here pretty soon. New album comes out February 7th, and you obviously have a new single coming out. Any last words for anybody that's going to be checking out this interview? Any last things you want to say to end it off?
Please join us on all our platforms and push for Thundermother to come back to the States. That's a dream, really. We want
Yeah.
to come back, and we really hope you like the album.
Yeah, tell your favorite festivals to book us.
And radio stations play us.
Yeah.
Well, all my favorite festivals are in Europe, so they're
Oh,
not
well.
they're not over here. So
Your favorite U.S. American festivals.
yeah, we don't have it that many. To be honest, we do have some, but not a lot. Prague Power probably is the best one, But
Oh,
It is really. I love prog power.
yeah,
I played there.
that's probably you did play there. Okay.
Yeah, with Therion.
With
Oh.
who?
With Therion.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember Therion. God, I remember the first ever album Nuclear Blast sent me by that band, by Therion, back in the late 90s.
Must have
hard
been
to-
Woven.
It was. That's the album. So, but yeah, that's cool that you played it. I think probably if you're going to pick a festival with usually the best bands, that the Prog Power is going to be the one. It's not a huge event, but you have the best. They book the best bands because it's all people that normally don't play here or don't
Yeah.
get a chance to.
We still have the booking agent in LA. We just haven't talked in a year.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should talk to him. That has Scorpions as well.
Yeah, and again, I think the album. Honestly, I think the album is very good. I think that as this band progresses or has over the last 15, 16 years. I mean, I remember listening to the first one, and you go back and usually when I listen to albums, I listen to everything that the band did previously, give me an idea of where I really put this. And I again, you guys your band continuously improves. So definitely a
Thank you.
very, very good, well written album. The songs aren't crazy long; they're straight to the point. They're catchy. They're easy to get into. I think that is the best part of your songwriting is that aspect of it. Where a lot of these hard rock or metal bands will write these 5, 6, 7 minute songs, but you have a very straight ahead, simple formula to write these tracks, and they're catchy. And they're easy to
Still,
get into. Yeah.
we have guitar solos.
Yeah.
You do, yeah.
If you listen to new music, the solos are gone. Where's the guitar solos? I think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it makes sense for us to write music like that, and then for other bands, it makes much more sense to have longer,
Yeah. I think
Do the long solos on the live shows.
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that with your songwriting, I think the one aspect that's great about it, realistically, with any of these tracks, you could make any one of these a lyric video. I mean, there's always, like with a lot of bands, and I actually ranted about this in a podcast, that you always have to sit here. A lot of bands pick the wrong singles to represent the album. But with your album, with the way that you write songs, you could really pick any of them.
Yeah.
Luxury
you.
problem. Thank you.
Yeah, and like for example, if you're looking to release a single, any of these tracks would work well. Just by the way the songs are constructed and the way that they are written.
Thank you. We feel the same.
Not every
Yeah.
band is like that. Some bands, it's just not the way that they write songs. So usually you pick one single that sounds like this, one single that brings out or sheds light on a different aspect of the record. But with your
Which
stuff,
one is your favorite, by the way?
my favorite, the first track I think is great. So Close. I think that's really a really great track. The one I brought up earlier, I Left My License in the Future. That's one of my favorites as well. But it's hard because I could listen to it next week and it could be completely different. But
Nice.
usually before I do the review, I decide to listen to it more in depth. And I usually wait until about a week before the release date. That way I let the album, I listen to it a lot.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's,
Yeah, you let
you
it
get
rest.
to know it.
Yeah.
I don't like to just listen to an album once or twice in a week and make a determination. It's got to be, if I like it, then I listen to it probably 20 times before I can really say, okay, I like this, or before I could say, what is my favorite song? But if you were to ask me and put me on the spot, it's So Close. I Left My License in the Future. American Adrenaline, I think, is great. The last song on the album. But and those stand out
You
to
like
me.
the straight rocker songs. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just your style of songwriting. Realistically, the way it's written, it could change. Just how it is.
That's cool.
When I do my review, I'm sure I'll tag you guys, and I'll tag.
yes, please do.
You'll get tagged, and when I do that, then I'm sure And then I'll put this. Usually, I'll refer back to this interview for the review as well. So, but
If you
those are all really good songs. But
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, I would say those tracks. That first song, honestly, the first song on the album, and this is usually the indicator for me how great a record is. And this is how the last album was, actually. The first song on the album, when I want to keep listening to it on repeat before I get to the rest of it, usually that means the record is going to be pretty good. And that's how
That's
I feel
so
about
fun
this one.
because I just read a review. They thought the opposite. That was the worst song on the album. Why open with that one? Blah blah blah.
Yeah, really.
It's
Well,
so interesting when people are different.
Yeah.
You like love it.
I mean, again, a lot of reviewers.
It's
they-
people's taste. That's just how it is in the end, right?
Yeah, I mean, that in the fact that some people, they get so many albums that they don't give these records much of a chance. They'll listen to it for a week and say it sucks. You know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I just sang on a record that came out and it was weird. It's weird how people interpret things. Some people, you know, were like, that's the greatest song in the album.
Love it. We
Yeah.
love the album. We're happy with it.
Yeah.
We
You
like
should
the
be.
song order.
Yeah, absolutely. And you should be, because I think it's an easy record to get into.
Good.
And
It's
we
more.
thought about it like two sides as well on a vinyl, A and B side. So it's like
Yeah.
5 and then 5.
Yeah. But I think your biggest obstacle isn't the song. It's not the music. The music's there. The biggest obstacle for any band is exposure. That's what you fight against these
Yeah.
days. You know, like there's more music coming out now. If you saw that statistic, more music comes out in a day now than came out in the entire year of 1989. Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
so it's exposure.
Yeah,
The songs are there.
People
And
need to
thank
listen.
God we have you, Tony. I'm really
Well-
happy and thankful for that.
You gotta play one of our songs at least from this interview so people can hear it.
Well, I always link the music in the show notes. So
You should just force it on them. No kidding. Play.
Well, YouTube
Because
doesn't usually
people are
like that.
lazy nowadays.
Right.
you are correct. There are a lot of lazy people, but
Yeah.
I think that it's really more of exposure. The band's good enough. The songs are good enough. It's really
Thank
a
you
matter
so
of
much.
getting people into it. So,
Yeah.
I gotta go to my baby now, unfortunately.
oh no, I
Sorry,
got you.
not a little bit-
Me too. Me too. I don't
Yeah.
have, my kids are all practically grown, but I do have to get going here myself. But hey, I really thank both of you for coming on. Really,
Thank you for having us.
and
Absolute pleasure.
it was
Nice meeting you again.
you too.
Yeah, time to remember.
Absolutely. No, it's all good. I mean, you see a lot of people on tour and I get it. But again, really great job on the record. I definitely believe that this album is very good. And at some point you will see my review online.
Yeah.
Ooh. Might share it. No joke. If it's good.
I will give me your credit card number. I will you can write a really good review. I will send you some. No.
Well, I've already, you don't have to do that. If I pre-order and buy the record, it's probably going to be good. So
I hope so. I hope
We
so.
really appreciate this, and it was our first American interview in a while, so thank you for that as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
well, hey, thank both of you. You have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Same to you.
Hey, everybody. Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.